Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. So today we want to talk about and have a look at some of the units involved in the failed Ukrainian counteroffensive that took place south of Orkiv, near Robotyne, Novopavlovka, and Verbova. So we kind of know what Ukrainian units were involved in this operation. So we'll look at very quickly Ukrainian units involved. So we have the 82nd Air Assault Brigade, the 14th Operational Brigade of the Ukrainian National Guard, the 47th Mechanized Brigade, the 46th Air Mobile Brigade, the 118th Mechanized Brigade, the Skala Assault Battalion, the 116th Mechanized Brigade, the 117th Mechanized Brigade, and elements of the 1st Tank Brigade. This unit is normally based near Chernihiv, and a single tank battalion was supporting the ongoing Ukrainian offensive. Then additionally, you have the 3rd Operational Brigade, Spartan Brigade of the Ukrainian National Guard, 33rd Mechanized Brigade, and then finally the 11th Brigade of the Ukrainian National Guard. So all in all, the Ukrainians dedicated approximately 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, upwards to 10 maneuver combat brigades against Russian forces. Now, what we don't hear about is the deployment of Russian forces. What Russian units were able to stifle the Ukrainian counteroffensive that took place in this area. Well, let's have a look at those Russian forces. And we're going to have to jump over to the deep state map. This map better depicts the disposition of Russian forces. Now, it's important to know the primary Russian combat unit that was involved in this area near what I define as the Orkiv salient, because it's south of Orkiv. Now, the primary Russian combat unit, contrary to what you hear on mainstream media, you hear a lot about Russian VDV formations or airborne troops that were deployed to this area to try and stifle the Ukrainian counteroffensive. But the real, I would say, the real winners for the Russian side of this operation was this unit right here. And it's the 58th Combined Arms Army. This is usually based in southern Russia, just north of, say, the Georgian border, near Chechnya and what have you. But this is the unit that was the primary blocking force that prevented the Ukrainians from moving towards Tokmak, its desired objective. Now, the 58th Combined Arms Army is comprised of a number of units. And in some cases, we don't know if, in fact, the 58th Combined Arms Army has been enlarged. We know it's been augmented with other combat formations from other areas within the Russian Federation. But the primary combat units that are in the 58th Combined Guards Army, and one of the units that saw some of the most heaviest fighting was the 42nd Guards Motorized Rifle Division. That unit, we believe, was heavily involved in the blocking activity, in counterattacking, in manning defensive areas near Novopavkovka, Verbova, in some of these areas. Obviously, it was augmented by other Russian forces, but the 42nd Motorized Guards Motorized Rifle Division was one of the primary instruments of preventing a successful Ukrainian counteroffensive. Assisting the 42nd Guards Motorized Rifle Division were elements of the 19th Motorized Rifle Division, elements of the 136th Guards Motorized Rifle Division, the 12th Rocket Artillery Brigade, the 67th Anti-Aircraft Rocket Brigade, the 291st Artillery Brigade. A Special Forces unit, a Spetsnaz unit, is also located under the 58th Combined Arms Army Command. It is not part of the Russian GRU. It is separate. It directly reports to the 58th Combined Arms Army. And that manned the right flank of this ongoing defensive operation. That's the 100th Reconnaissance Brigade of the 58th Guards Army. And then there have been a number of, as I've talked about, other military units such as the 14th Electronic Warfare, 678th Logistics Support Brigade, 31st Engineer Regiment, and then obviously the 34th Headquarters Brigade of the 58th Combined Arms Army. Now, as I talked about before, the primary blocking force, one of the units that saw some of the most combat, again, was that 42nd Motorized Rifle Brigade. If we look at that brigade in terms of its size and capability, it's made up of predominantly of 3 motorized rifle regiments. The 70th Motorized Rifle Regiment, the 71st Motorized Rifle Regiment, and the 291st Motorized Rifle Regiment. And again, obviously, each motorized rifle regiment is comprised of 3 motorized rifle battalions and 1 tank battalion. So essentially, you have 3 tank battalions and 9 motorized rifle battalions that saw a lot of the fighting in this area. Now, again, the Russians did bring in additional forces, such as Russian elements of the Russian National Guard, and then the Russian airborne forces as well were attached to the 58th Combined Arms Army in an assistance role. Right now, if we look at least what this open source is saying, that if we start on the left flank and we work our way from west to east of the Orikhiv salient, you have the 503rd Motorized Rifle Regiment, the 237th Airborne Assault Regiment. Again, that's not part of the 58th Combined Arms Army. That's part of the Russian airborne forces that were brought in to augment the 58th Combined Arms Army. And that's part of the 76th Airborne Division. The 234th Airborne Assault Regiment. And then essentially this entirety of the left flank is now supported by the 76th Airborne Division. And then the very center, the main route near Novopavkovka, is where the 42nd the 42nd Motorized Rifle Division is operating. You can see its component units here, such as the 70th Motorized Rifle Brigade, the 210th Motorized Rifle Brigade. This is a reserve unit. Anytime you see BARS, that signifies Russian Mobilized Reserves. It could be a regiment or brigade-sized formation of mobilized forces. And if you look at what the Russians are doing now, you essentially, again, you have the 42nd Motorized Rifle Division that is operating in the southern sector. The left flank is protected by or operating with the 76th Airborne Division. And to the right, again, you see reserve units, you see elements of the 417th Separate Reconnaissance Battalion, the 100 Separate Reconnaissance Battalion. Now, again, that is that Special Forces component of the 58th Combined Arms Army. You have the 22nd Separate Special Purpose Brigade. That is a component of the actual Russian GRU. That is the traditional Russian Spetsnaz light infantry brigades. And then the 108th Airborne Assault Regiment and the 56th Air Assault Regiment as well. Now, the Russians appear to have deployed the 19th Motorized Rifle Division as its strategic reserve in case of a possible breakout by Ukrainian forces. So if the Ukrainians were to see additional success, we in all probability would see these reserve forces that, again, is the 19th Motorized Rifle Division is part of that 58th Combined Arms Army. And then directly supporting that is the 810th Marine Naval Infantry Brigade and the 7th Airborne Assault Division as well. Is being held as a strategic and tactical reserve in case of possible Ukrainian breakout. So I wanted to go over and have a look at exactly the Russian units, the Ukrainian units that were involved in this ongoing battle of the Orikhiv salient in this area. There continues to be fighting, but the probability of further Ukrainian success, I believe at this point, is going to be very much marginalized. And many of these Ukrainian units that were involved in this operation have taken large numbers of casualties. They've lost a lot of vehicles, and they continue to be used. They are continuing limited counterattacks in this area. But at this point, the idea that they would be able to move further south and seize control of Tokmak, I think it's just something that is not going to happen at this point. So we will continue to observe. We will continue to report. Thank you for joining us today. More to come very, very soon. As always, have a good day.